To cover this theme fully would require many lectures, perhaps 6 months or even a year. Many such questions are likely to arise, and it may be possible to answer them if they are presented, but I must point out that because of our limited time, there will be a certain lack of clarity which cannot be made clear unless it were possible to go into every detail fully. Today's science, which I acknowledge fully, has deviated in many ways from a world view that truly accords with nature. Now let's just ask ourselves a question, bearing in mind that as our discussion proceeds other matters may need to be added. What is the approximate age when we can begin to teach children about the plant world? We teach children by means of pictures, and they learn to write through painting and drawing. Indeed, it is never too early to introduce children to the arts, since all our teaching must be imbued with a feeling for art. In the same way, we must also keep this in mind. Just as the ether body is inseparable from the human formative and pictorial aspects, the astral body, which underlies the life of feelings and sensations, tends toward the musical nature of a person. So what do we look for when observing children? Because the astral body is embedded in the physical and etheric bodies of children between the change of teeth and puberty, if the soul life is healthy, it is also deeply musical. Every healthy child is profoundly musical. To invoke this musicality, we need only call on the children's own natural liveliness and sense of movement. Artistic teaching from the very beginning of school life should thus employ both the visual arts and music. We should never emphasize abstraction. An artistic approach is most important, and children must be led to comprehend the world out of the artistic. This must not be done too late or too early. We must always look at the spiritual aspect of matters. This is especially true when we are developing an art of education, since this is how we give children a sense of standing firmly and safely in the world. They gradually come to understand that the earth is an organism, and in fact this is what it is. These are facts, and absolutely real. If we fail to understand them, we cannot unite with the world in a real way. This, then, is what I wished to say in regard to teaching about the plant world. Now we come to the animal world. We show children how the plant belongs to the earth. Then, when they are about 11 years old, insofar as this is possible today, we must begin to consider the animal world. We do this in such a way that we see the various animal forms in the human being. Consider the effect this has on children's relationship to animals and plants. Plants go into the earth and unite with it. Animals become one with the human being. We cannot view animals as belonging to the earth in the same way. The mere fact that the animals can move about makes this obvious. In this sense, they are independent. If this is presented to children in an artistic and living way, and if it corresponds to the capacity of their inner being, we give them the living forces they need to establish a relationship to life. On the other hand, it is easy to destroy that relationship by failing to look deeply at the whole human being. What, in fact, is the ether body? If it were possible to lift it out of the physical body and imbue it in such a way that its form became visible, there could be no greater work. The human ether body, by its own nature and through what we create within it, is simultaneously a work of art and the artist. When we introduce the formative element into the children's artwork, we allow them to sculpt with the freedom I described yesterday. What we bring them is deeply related to the ether body. This enables children to take hold of their inner being and thus as human beings claim their proper relationship to the world. By introducing children to music, we form the astral body. But when we put two things together, taking the formative into movement, and when we perform movements that are formative, we have eurythmy, which follows exactly the relationship between the ether and astral bodies in children. So now the children learn eurythmy, or speech, revealed in formed gestures, just as they learned quite naturally to speak in their earlier years. Healthy children have no difficulty learning eurythmy, because in eurythmy they simply express their own being. They have the impulses to express their own being. This is why, in addition to gymnastics, eurythmy is incorporated into the curriculum as a required subject from the first years through the highest grades. You see, eurythmy arose from the whole human being, the physical, etheric, and astral bodies. It can be studied only by means of spiritual scientific knowledge of the human being. Today, gymnastics are directed physiologically toward the body in a lopsided way, because physiology cannot do otherwise. It introduces certain principles based on life-giving processes. Through gymnastics, however, we do not educate the whole human being, but only one aspect. This is not said to imply anything against gymnastics, but today the importance of gymnastics is overrated. Thus, in today's education, eurythmy should go hand in hand with gymnastics. The thing of greatest importance is what brings spiritual life to the hearts of men. Again, we may think that eurythmy is making headway if it can be introduced into schools. I do not mean to say anything derogatory, but perhaps there may be this standpoint, quote, "Oh, yes, in schools there isn't so much fuss about it, and it won't be so conspicuous. If eurythmy gets known imperceptibly through the schools, that will be good," close quote. But it is better for us to give eurythmy out to all the world quite openly, for eurythmy comes directly out of anthroposophy. You will find good ground in this country for eurythmy if you will have initiative and carry to the world, as anthroposophy, the artistic elements in it, as well as what is of the nature of education. For this, it will, I think, be necessary for our friends here to cooperate still more consciously than before and carry anthroposophy to the world in a still more energetic way. Let me remind you, my dear friends, of something that I said first in Dornach, namely that the English-speaking peoples of the earth have, as a result of the role which has fallen to them since the terrible war, a very great responsibility. The responsibility of taking on themselves the primary task of spreading spiritual life. And this can actually be done through the understanding, the living understanding of the anthroposophical impulse. I'd say it is a matter for serious concern. The more they get involved in sport, the more do people forget about things of the spirit. After their death, they will then come back immediately from the world of the spirit within a very short time. If it were not the case that everything in the West does receive a little of the spirit, the earth would gradually be populated only by people who do not at all want to go back to the world of the spirit. And you would then have nothing but people on earth who gradually bring the earth to utter ruin. We are beginning to do this a little bit even now. This little bit is already quite serious for present-day humanity. But once people start to give no more consideration to their ether body, but only their physical body, this will bring about horrific conditions on earth. And so, one must once again intervene by means of the science of the spirit. The only possible way is to oppose movements that are entirely designed to drive man into his physical body, making him wholly earth man, using other movements that are in opposition. People's minds are already turned toward becoming earthly human beings. You'll understand, now that I have given you so many talks, that without being a Philistine, such things do make one's heart ache. You see, I also went to England last summer. When we were just about to leave, all England was full of excitement, waiting for the evening papers to read about the most important event. Everyone was eagerly waiting for the evening papers. What were they waiting for? The football results. Now we've just come from Norway. Many people were there when we left. The station platform was full of people. And when the train started to move, people shouted, "Hurrah! Hurrah!" At the next station they were shouting, "3 cheers for him!" Well, this was not for us, of course, and the question is, who was it for? I just managed to find out that it was for football players who'd come to Norway from Central Europe and were on their way home again. So, what does interest people today? Well, they are much more interested in these things, which gradually draw the physical body away from the ether body, making the human being wholly into a creature of the earth, than in any event connected with the weal and woe of millions of people. Because of this, other movements have to be made to oppose the movements that are now being made all over the world, spreading more and more. These are the eurythmic movements. They take their orientation from the ether body. When you see eurythmy being done, you'll see all the movements which the etheric body makes. When you see sport being done, you'll see all the movements which the physical body makes. Yes, gentlemen, this is extraordinarily important, for it also means a longing for sport. I do not want to say anything against sport in general. Sport is, of course, quite a good thing if it is done by people who also work. For one has to get used to more unnatural movements at work. If one then does natural movements in sport, movements that are more adapted to the physical body, then recreation in sport is a good thing. But the way people are active in sports today, with many of them having no need for recreation, what is this really? You see, there are sports people today who may, perhaps, not all of them of course, but there are certainly some, quickly go to church in the morning where they pray, quote, "I believe in a God in heaven," close quote, and so on. Then they go to the sports field. Now they are not putting it in words, but if we put what they do in words, it is this, quote, "I do not believe in a God in heaven, of course. I believe in flesh and bones, for this alone makes life worth living," close quote. You see, that is the inevitable unconscious consequence of the things people do today. You are a materialist, not only if you say you do not want to know about things of the Spirit, but also with things like these, where the whole human being is torn away from the spiritual element. Between death and a new birth, we do not need theory or anything that can be expressed in words. What we need is the universal feeling that fills our entire being, the melodious and harmonious quality with which the various cosmic beings work together. It is primarily the life of feeling in its spiritual metamorphosis that is quickened and stimulated as we enter the sun existence. Our whole experience is like cosmic melody and cosmic harmony that vibrates through our whole being. The aspect of our earthly being that was expressed through our ability to speak and pour thoughts into the form of words, the soul meaning of our speech, crops up uncomfortably, at least as things are at present on earth, in the memory as a dissonant element in the cosmic music. A dissonant element actually enters the cosmic music because we carry a remnant of our speech capacities into our sun sphere existence. What we carry into this sphere becomes the basis for the work of certain higher beings whose task is to help the earth from their place in the cosmos. Above all, they see in human speech how earthly existence has decayed and degenerated. Human speech does not really develop out of us with elemental force in any of the current European or American languages. Perhaps the nature of what speech was at one time could manifest again on earth, owing to the fact that some of us are learning eurythmy. In the Theosophical Society, they were looking for the spiritual figure of Christ in a physical body. They wanted to find a direct manifestation of the spiritual in the external world. We must accept the physical world as it is and seek the spiritual where it really exists. In the physical world, of course, but essentially in the spiritual spheres that permeate the physical world. Here lies yet another region. Man in a healthy state feels impelled to bridge the gap between the region of inner experience and external perception, between the chaotic world of the dreamer and the abnormal world of the medium and somnambulist. Art is born of the union of these two worlds and their mutual fructification. For in art, the external form is imbued with spirit, and the spiritual content is clothed in external form. Whilst the Theosophical Society was busy proclaiming an ordinary human being to be a spiritual entity, we, in the Anthroposophical Society, were impelled to direct the occult stream into art. The mystery plays and eurythmy were born, and the art of speech formation was developed. These and similar developments in the Anthroposophical Society were the fruits of the impulse to bridge the gap between the spiritual and the physical, so that consciousness bridges the chaotic world of dream and the chaotic world of the medium or somnambulist. In art, these two worlds are consciously merged. Someday this will be understood. People will understand the purpose of our endeavors when speech formation as practiced by Frau Marie Steiner shall be restored to the level it once enjoyed when men were still instinctively spiritual. For them, rhythm and measure in speech were more important than empty, abstract diction. These must be revived again. And eurythmy restores to us again man unfolding before us through movement, man as he really is as a being, soul and spirit. This is what we learn from eurythmy. In art, therefore, we have had first of all to build a bridge from the world in which the dreamer wanders aimlessly to the world in which the medium or somnambulist blindly stumbles around. In our present materialistic age, the dreamer is left to his solitary reflections and knows nothing of configurations and material forms which express and reveal the spiritual. The somnambulist or medium is possessed by elementary beings. The somnambulist or medium produces phenomena to which we are not accustomed in ordinary life. His handwriting, movements, speech, and sense of taste are not those of the normal man, because his astral body and ego are outside the physical and etheric bodies. And we are dealing with a physical and etheric body which are deserted and are given up to the influence of the cosmos. We are confronted with physical and etheric manifestations which do not reflect the normal workings of nature, but which proceed from the spiritual world. For after all, it is immaterial whether we suggestionize the medium or whether the medium is subject to some stellar, climatic, or metallic influence which he assimilates into his etheric body. We can see in the phenomena of mediumism and somnambulism, there is no necessity to do so, but it is always possible, what is happening in the person who is ill, because his ego and astral body have withdrawn in some abnormal way from an organ or from the whole organism and have been replaced by other spiritual influences. Since men were aware of this relationship in ancient times, the mysteries were always associated with medicine. And because people were not so inquisitive as today, they never felt the need to be interested in mediums and somnambulists, for they were familiar with their activities just as they were familiar with the conditions of disease. They approached these matters more from the medical point of view. It is a standpoint that we must acquire once again. It is essential to find once again the bridge leading from the spirit into matter and from matter to the spirit. In the sphere of art, we must first build this bridge so that we no longer stumble and drift along in a semi-conscious state, but develop a sense for art through spiritual movements which are not of the normal kind. Thus, eurythmy has its true inner source in an impulse arising out of initiation, and all that we practice in the art of speech formation stems from the same source. And when the forthcoming course on dramatic art is held at Dornach, we shall try to restore once again the spiritual image of dramatic art. The path to art must be found that will link once again the sphere of the spiritual with the sphere of natural science.